Hi everyone. How's it going?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm alright. I'm here now, put together
Oh,
finally.
good, 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 good.
So
Oh,
just yeah, just a quick disclaimer that obviously we're also on YouTube live at the moment.
okay.
So if there's something you're not comfortable with or whatnot, then obviously you keep your camera off or whatnot, and for that not to be shown.
Okay.
We're gonna wait a little bit more for more people to come in,
Okie dokie.
and then we'll just get started. I mean, today I'm hoping that no one cries. I really hope.
Oh,
It can be a tough subject
yeah.
though, so I'm hoping it goes well. I've made someone cry in a pub before,
Really?
way
Oh,
before pandemic. The
yeah.
school kids, school parents, we went on like out for a drink or whatnot, just around the corner,
Yeah.
and we're just sharing stories. And then this lady was like, "Oh, she went through, I think IVF, to get her son,
Oh.
blah blah blah." And I was like, "You know what? I'm so sorry to hear that. It's really tough sometimes to have children and stuff. I completely
Mm.
get it." And then she's like, "Oh, how about you?" And then I started. She's like, and she cried in the pub.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
But I think a bit of alcohol played a role where she's just like, a little bit.
Yes.
And I was like, "Oh, don't cry. It's all
Right.
right." No,
Mm.
there's a happy ending to it.
That's it. Yes. Thank God.
I'm just gonna send one more. Yeah. So Andrea, thanks so much for joining.
No, you're
Any
welcome. I keep meaning to. I just
Yeah.
but today I was like, okay, I'm glad I messaged you because I would have been. But then, do you know the funny thing is, when I received notification the other day, I actually put a reminder
Mhm.
on my calendar, but because I was so busy yesterday, I was saying to myself, how did I miss the reminder?
Oh yes.
Okay,
That's
later
I
on
get
this
that a
evening.
lot of people would just be like, where we've missed it. No, 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 no. Today's only Wednesday, so you're good. Wait there just 1 second. Let me
Okay.
okay. Yeah, just to let everyone know as well that my ID for this sister to sister doesn't change. It's always the same. So if
Okay.
you've gone on before, the Zoom usually saves all the Zooms you've been in, all the
That's
IDs.
it. Yeah.
So then you can just click on it and just enter, and then it's the same. I just
Okay.
thought it's easier than having to change it every week.
Yeah.
And fingers crossed, we haven't had a hacker in here yet.
Oh, thank
So
God.
that's a good thing.
Yes.
So yeah, we're gonna just wait a little bit. Just
Oh,
another
so.
disclaimer for the people that went on before. This is streaming today live on YouTube. It just makes my life slightly easier for having to not edit. It comes out in the raw format. If for
Hmm.
whatever reason I have to pull it out to edit it or take something out, I will. But for now, last week's one, which was the one we did for, or 2 weeks ago for homeschooling, worked really well. So I've left it on as it is because it was quite a lot lengthy like presentation. A lot of questions were asked, so I thought I'll just carry on with the trend and streaming it live on YouTube. So if you don't want your face to be shown for whatever reason or whatnot, but this is a space, a safe space to talk for us to to come together to try and heal, to try and just talk and get advice and just be girls. And well, I don't know if today it's any boys or men would join us. That would be quite interesting if they did. But I
Yeah.
guess that's maybe another day for that to happen, for experiences they have had in different aspects of
Yeah.
whatever topic we will go into. So I think I'm gonna get started and say hi everyone and welcome to another sister to sister edition. Today's topic is quite sensitive and um, can be emotional, but what we'll do is obviously try and look at it in the positive way or whatnot. I will go ahead first and share my story, and most of you on here already know what I have gone through and that, and what the results were, and where I'm at right now with everything. So yes, I'm gonna start. So Currently, I am in my early 30s. Yeah. Since last year doesn't count for any birthday, when you ask me 2021 how old I'm turning, I'm going to tell you 2019 birthday. Yes. So during this time, you can unmute yourself to comment anything or share a laugh, or if you have to cry, share a cry or whatever. It's fine. You can unmute yourself and we can have a chat as I go along. So let's start from the very beginning, where when you're younger, much younger. Let's say you are a tween. You're not quite 13, like in your teenage years yet. You're quite young, and you're happy to play with children and all of that. I've always been one of those young adults or young teenagers that always thought, oh, I would love to be a mother. I would love to, I used to always love babysitting and holding people's children whilst they maybe pop out or whatever. I loved it. And then as I grow older, obviously it's no, there's no question that I would want to have my own children once I'm married and stuff. So when that happened, I got married and finished my education, my 2 degrees first, and I thought after that or during my last year or whatnot, we'll try and see what happens. And it started off good. It happened fairly soonish. We're talking 2012 at the moment. No, 2011 or 10. Gosh, we're going way back. 2010, way back. Or 2011. 2010/2011. We're going that far back. It happened soon after I went to, my appointment, only because there was slight bleeding. And I think in most women, they say 1 in 3 or whatnot will have implantation bleeding. Some will have it and it's just very minimal, spotting here and there. And then it just kind of goes away, fades away, because it's just normal. Mine just seemed to carry on a bit and was, changing in color. TMI, sorry. It can be a little bit too much information at times. So if you're sensitive to, let's say, blood and things like that, you just, join us later on or forward a bit if you're watching this on YouTube. Yeah, so that just happened. And then I thought, okay, let me go in. So I went to King's at the time, and they did a scan and they looked and everything. Oh, everything looks good. We can't see a heartbeat yet because it's quite early on, but it looks good. Come back in a couple of weeks' time. We'll check it again. So there was no worries there. At the end of the day, at that time, I was in my early 20s. What is there to worry about? You understand? I've never had to go through anything like that before. So it was like, okay, let's do this. Then waited a couple of weeks, went for my appointment, and between that time, nothing really worried me. I wasn't alarmed or anything like that. I just kept reading that it's normal to bleed sometimes, but it fades away, blah, blah, blah. So I did all of that, went into my appointment, laid down, and then they checked and it was silence. And I remember it was a Nigerian doctor that did it. And it was just super quiet. And he was just looking. I thought, what's going on? And that time, I went even by myself because I thought, this is just a routine check, just to check on heartbeat and stuff like that. And then he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. There seems to be like an issue where, like if you've been pregnant before and had scans, the sac is quite, they have a dimension that's quite round. It's very has a shape that is considered normal. Mine didn't look quite normal. And then when he looked further, he said, oh gosh, okay, there's 2 sacs in there. So that means there's one embryo in here, one embryo in here. So it's twins. And I said, oh, that's, yes, we do it once and once for all, and that's it. And he said, well, it doesn't look quite good. And then with the bleeding as well, it looks as though, this might end in a miscarriage. And then I was like how? Because I don't feel anything. I don't feel no different in myself and stuff like that. So he sent me home and he said, you know what? Keep an eye on it. This might happen naturally and it will just be, gone. So just watch it. And I said, okay, cool. So I went home. I told my husband, we're like, okay, this is what's happening. This is the letter I got. And this looks like as though it's a miscarriage. At that time, it didn't even resonate. I didn't even quite understand, I think, what he was trying to say, because I had the faith that this cannot be happening at this point in time, So I went home, and then, in a couple of days after that appointment, it happened. And it was like the bleeding was getting more and all of that. And fast forward, basically, I went in for another appointment, and it was like, okay, it's passing, however, it's not quite doing it. And that's when I realized that this is for real. And a bit of, it was still not quite understanding what has happened and all of that. And then they said, well, I need assistance in getting rid of the this is so weird because I haven't spoken about it in a very long time. I think the last time I did speak about it was a few years ago when a friend invited me to a radio show years ago, and I spoke. So going back to it now, it seems like, oh God, how did I even, you know? Anyway, so that was that, and then I had to go into for an operation because it wasn't happening by itself because it was two of that, two of them, and yeah, so that was that, and it was awful, and I felt so alone because I hadn't told anybody because I just wanted to wait until I got to like 12 week, and then you can share it with friends and family and all of that. So then it kind of was that, and that was it. And I carried on, and the doctors advised me that I should wait for 2, 3 months before trying again. And I'm very stubborn. It's not something that has changed. I'm very clear on the things I want, and when I want it, I know what I want. I want it now. So I didn't wait. I let one cycle come and go and tried again. And then I think the next cycle after that, I fell pregnant again. And it's just, in my case, what I've noticed over the years is I fell pregnant very, very easy. It's not getting pregnant, it's staying pregnant that's an issue for me. um and then it's just kept happening. And today I was trying to figure out how many miscarriages I've had, and they've been in total, I think, about 7. And anyone that knows me knows that I have 2 daughters, and that's all I've had. And so to gone through that many is it's been a journey for sure. So that happened, then the next one happened, then another one happened, and all of those were early on. So they were before 12 weeks. A couple of them we had a heartbeat, but then soon after that appointment, basically, as soon as I got home, it happened again. And the pain, and there's something that I used to tell my husband that when I know it's happening, there's a pop, there's an internal pop that happens inside of me. I can hear it internally. As soon as that happens, I know that this is going to be a miscarriage. There's nothing I can do about it. And a lot of the times when it did happen, I was like, oh, what did I do wrong? And all of that. And there's nothing I did wrong. I've come to terms with the fact that there's nothing I did wrong. I ate the things I was supposed to eat. I didn't do anything out of the ordinary or nothing. One time we had traveled to Ghana to just visit family and friends. We came back and I found myself pregnant. I didn't know what I was. So then when the miscarriage happened at that time, I thought it's because I had traveled. I shouldn't have traveled. I shouldn't have gone anywhere. I should have just, stayed put. But then again, when I speak to my doctor at the time, she said, you know what, there's nothing you could have done. It wasn't the bumps in the road because that's what I blamed it on. That Ghana is very bumpy, the roads are not good, and when I go over speed hump, maybe that's why, and all of that. And then later, actually, I found out research that was done that um some women that have gone through a miscarriage, when if they lived on a bumpy road or they have a lot of bumps that they go to within a car ride, it might um make it happen, but it's not the ultimate cause of it. So sometimes internet, leave it alone. Don't even go and try and research anything. Don't try and go and justify anything, because there will be people that have had experiences that are worse than yours, that are same as yours, or as mild as yours, and then you might get things like not quite right. I don't even think it's the word is right. So then the one miscarriage I wanted to really dwell on and talk about is the one I had where um which I had at 20 weeks, just before, what year was that? 2012. Um yeah, that was the one that, when you think you're almost there, you're almost halfway through, so therefore nothing else will happen. I mean, this, we found out what we were having, and I haven't said that, I hadn't told anyone yet, because I was just wanting to keep it to myself, because there's always this internal fear that it will end badly again. So I just kept it to myself. My husband obviously knew. We went to appointments. We tried to do all that we can to keep this, but it just didn't work out that way. And so after that one, which broke me. It broke me in every level you can think of. It broke my spirit. It broke my belief in God. It broke some of my friendships because I just didn't understand. I couldn't get my head around it. And then at the time, fortunately for me, there were a lot of babies around. A lot of friends had babies and stuff, and that made me super happy. But then when I'm quiet alone, I'm like, okay, so it's happening for them. Why not for me? But that's one thing you should never do. Never compare yourself to another woman. Never compare your situation to anyone else because everyone is different. And I think when you go through that, it is what it is. You know, it's tough. It's really tough. It's really really tough. And that's one of the reasons why Sister to Sister was born. Because I wanted us to be able to get together to talk and help one another out and stuff. And throughout the years, fortunately for me, I've always been able to get together with people. I've always been the person that I seem to attract people that have also gone through the same thing. And when I tell them my story, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you know what? This will work out all right, and this is not that bad." And that so that miscarriage I had at 20 weeks was the worst one because I had to literally give birth knowing that the child would not survive. There's no way at 20 weeks, this will happen. And at first, it didn't quite register, I think, as well. It just didn't make any sense to me. It didn't register. But the day that I was leaving the hospital, going in with a child or with a pregnancy, coming out without one, was the one that broke me. I opened the hospital doors. We went down the stairs, sat in the car, and I just cried. I cried and cried and cried. And I said to my husband, let's say, why? Why is this happening to us? Or are we not meant to be together? Maybe that's why this is happening. So I went home and I said, you know what, maybe we need to break up because maybe we're not compatible like that. That's why it's happening. God has given us a sign that we shouldn't do it. We should not have kids together. And he said, you know what, I didn't marry you or fall in love with you because of the fact that you could have children for me or we could have children together. So let's just not think about that because that's not his reason for being in a relationship. And I never understood that because after a while, when all of your friends, your cousins, your nieces will start having children and you haven't had them yet, and then you will question it. There will come a time where you think, oh, I should have kids, but having had kids now, I have come to realize that it's not the ultimate. It's not it's not what it's not going to make you, it's not. As a woman, it's a shame that within especially our African community where if once you're married, it's like, when are you gonna have kids? Oh my gosh, you gained weight, are you pregnant? It's a lot of, these, I call them the womb watchers because they seem to know your womb better than you do. They seem to watch it more than you do. They seem to know exactly when you're on your cycle and what's happening with you. And those are the people that I'm actually going to make a t-shirt and say, get off my womb. Don't watch my womb. I can watch it myself. So that was that. That really broke me. I didn't pray for a whole year. Didn't feel the need to pray. Didn't understand it. Didn't get it. Then one day I remember I visited a friend of mine's church in East London. And it was a pastor that had come for just a convention. And my husband and I, we went, we sat down, we did all we did, da da da. And then he said, put your hand on something you need fixing or something. And what my husband did was he put my hand on my tummy and I was like, oh my God, let's just, what are we doing here? And that same year I conceived and had my daughter Geneva. I'm not saying that it's due to that prayer or anything, and I'm also not belittling God's ability because he can do anything. But I think at that point in time, I had let go. And that's one of the things I heard in my ear after that service a lot of times, that let go and let God. Because at the end of the day, there's only so much I can do as a human, and he takes the rest. He takes care of everything. Now, I did a lot of research when I got pregnant with my Geneva, and my doctor helped me out a lot. So I was on progesterone. I believe it was 500 milligram once a day. Progesterone is a hormone that is supposed to help prevent or store miscarriage or loss of a baby. However, there's no big research on it done yet. However, there is talk on it that it helps that. And then also was on metformin. Metformin is actually a drug for diabetes. But in people that have PCOS, I have polycystic ovarian syndrome. So if you ever went to a scan and a doctor told you that, or they can see cyst on your ovaries, and it means that you have PCOS, it's no big deal. Many women conceive naturally just fine. It's just that some side effects are, excess hair growth, weight gain, and then also some actually experience no periods or no ovulations with that, and that's when other medications come in. So find out what your body is telling you about yourself. And then also, if you're religious, never stop praying, because God can do it. He always does it. There's a lady that, an example, that had been trying for 16 years or whatnot with her husband. And then she went through IVF and now she's got triplets. So when you've waited for such a long time and then God finally does it. And I'm also saying that it's not all natural. IVF is unnatural to some, or they refer it as unnatural, but I don't think it is, because obviously there's something happens, and I think in any ways God makes a way for that to happen. May it be you doing the traditional way or the non-traditional ways, and if it happens, and it will just happen. So I wanted to just encourage people today and forevermore that having several miscarriages or one doesn't mean that you will not have any children. That doesn't mean that, it's tough and it's unfair to have to go through so many in order to have your one, or in my case, my two, because through even in between other pregnancies, I've had miscarriages. So Geneva came along, but she was born earlier, 27 weeks. I had to put a stitch in it because it seemed as though each time the babies were heavier, my cervix was my cervix is rubbish. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do once the babies get heavier. So with her, but then she still came early because my waters broke, and then they had to take the stitch out without any anesthesia. Take out the stitch. Oh my gosh, the pain. Anyway, and she was born. We were in hospital for 6 weeks, and then we were out, and she's an absolutely healthy child, healthy 8-year-old now. Then Geneva came along, obviously. Then we took a break about a couple of years, and then it took a lot of convincing my husband to have more children, because to him what my body was going through was enough and was a lot, and he didn't want to have any more children. He didn't see why we are testing God again, and he always said that, why are we testing God, because he's given us one already. Let's just be happy with the one that we've got. And I thought, I understood what he was saying, but in me, I really believe that I'm supposed to be a mother of more than one child. However, if after a while we tried and it didn't work, I'm still happy with just my one, which is a miracle on its own. So we tried having a second baby. Then what happened was I got pregnant again with twins. However, one was in my tube and then one was in my womb. The one in my tube seems to have been growing. The one in my womb wasn't. So they called it something, and I can't quite remember what it was, because it doesn't happen often. So obviously in my appointments, because I've had so many miscarriages, all the student doctors are always there to see what they can learn from me. Sometimes it's very, very, very it's a lot, because a lot of people are always in the room with me, trying to figure out what's wrong with me, trying to see what they can learn from me, and trying to really basically look for, I'm an experiment to most, and my files are super thick and I'm super high risk, and it's just like it's a lot. And so just before Vienna was born, Vienna was conceived on just one tube. So the one tube was doing the job of both. So apparently, medically and everything, one tube can carry on going to one and the other ovary, depending on where the ovulation is happening, to pick up the egg and then drop it in and guide it through to the womb for it to be where it is. And all of that I didn't know until it happened to me. So I think with miscarriage and stillbirth, you don't know until it happens to yourself. And I pray that no one ever goes through that, because it's tough. And if you're not crazy, if you're not careful, you're gonna lose your mind. And I believe that women that go through that are specially gifted. They are on a path that is different from most women. They are there to teach, and your unfortunate stories or stories to having your children is what will help someone else. And this is why I'm here. This is why Sister Sister is here. You know, this is why I open up myself to talk to anyone and anyone that wants to know about things like this, especially, and obviously other things. So Vienna was born with just one tube. She, a friend of mine said to me that wouldn't it be funny if Vienna came like was overdue? And I was like, oh, please, that would just be crazy. How would she be overdue when Geneva came so early, had so many miscarriages? It wouldn't even make sense. That because that would mean that all of a sudden my cervix is like, oh, today, like this pregnancy, dear, I'm gonna just chill and behave myself. And yeah, and it did. It behaved itself. I had the stitch put in at 12 weeks because with me, I had to put it in early to prevent any other late miscarriages. Put in at 12 weeks, and throughout the weeks, I was on bed rest because my cervix was shortening and the cervix stitch, the cerclage, didn't seem to be was able to do what it's supposed to do. But God being so good and everything being aligned, I Vienna was not overdue even. She was just on time, 39 weeks and 4 days. But my blood pressure was going up, so they had to induce me. And she came out at 6 pounds, £6 1 ounce. And I've never had a big baby like that because Geneva was born at 940 grams, so she was tiny. So having her was a miracle. Both of my children are miracles, and on every aspect and everything you can think of, they are. And every child is a miracle, because they are the way they are formed in the womb, the way they come out, and all the things that we women go through. So thanks everyone that joined today. If you have any questions, any specific questions about anything at all, do ask because I feel like I gave you a really short version of everything, and I didn't want to like waffle on too much because talking to myself is no fun. And yeah, so if anyone has any questions, anything to share, do share. And it would be great to hear someone else's story or any experiences they've had, not maybe not necessarily directly or through someone else. That would be lovely. So the floor is open. Don't come in all at once. Any comments? Anything? Anyone? Andrea, are you still here? Hello.
Yep, I'm still here.
Oh yes, 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 yes. I mean, if you
Hello.
feel that
Can
you
you hear
can,
me?
yeah, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Okay, no, it keeps saying my internet connection is unstable, so
All right,
I've
yeah.
missed bits of the story and everything, so
All right, no, that's not a problem. But if you
it's
can hear me
terrible.
now, okay. Then if you want to share, if you have any questions, anyone, go ahead and ask. Um, yeah. Thanks for joining.
Hi, Vay.
Hi, hi.
Hi.
Lovely to see your face. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good, good,
It was
good.
more just a comment about women's fertility being so fragile, it appears, and you
Mhm,
can't really take anything for granted,
mhm.
because you kind of, in life, you get to a certain age, don't you, and you assume you're going to meet that person, you're going to get married, you're going to have babies, and it's easy. So I haven't had a miscarriage, but I can't have children, so that's my story. So I've got a premature ovarian failure. So my eggs just stopped working at the age of 35, and at the age of 35 I started the menopause.
Right.
So, and it's that whole, I knew that I'd left it later than a lot of people, children. 35, I'm going to start thinking about it now. I've partied, I've had my good times.
Mhm.
I'm going to start thinking about it, and the opportunities now have passed without me knowing.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just certain things you take for granted. And one of the things I always say to just younger relatives and what have you, don't leave it so long. Whatever it is that you want to do, just don't leave it so long. And I know that's not always a choice because I didn't have a partner earlier than that to have the choice. But if you do have a choice, just try, because God is good and everything can happen.
Mhm.
But I feel personally that I wasn't proactive enough with it, which I could have been.
Mhm.
And now the opportunity's gone. I've got lots of babies in my family, so I have to make it up that way. But yeah, but it's very fragile from something that I thought was very almost certain
Mhm.
when I was younger.
Yep.
And then listening to your story again, it's like the struggle for you to have your two babies
Mhm.
is immense.
Mhm.
And you don't think of that when you're
No, it's not something, and that's again, I feel like it's should we educate, because I've got two daughters now, obviously, and should I make an effort to tell them when they're much, obviously when they're a little bit older, to say that, listen, um, life in general obviously is not always fair. We've come to realize, but do I consciously tell them that? What if this, what if that? Because I think with the information that we've got now, as you said, that sometimes you think you leave it too late, but sometimes in your early 30s or late 20s, you don't have a partner. You don't have the one that you can say that I'm going to settle down with this person and have children with. So then it's not up to you almost. You see what I mean? I know that some people actually also would have liked to have considered egg freezing if they had that knowledge before. So I think that's one of the things that maybe, especially within our Black community, African community, from a younger age, we need to let them know what options are available to them in order for them to make their choices when they're a bit older.
I think that's it. It's the choice, isn't it? Because I was having a great time in my early 30s and I was like, and I'll get to it at some point. And that's not to say that it would have happened earlier, but there was the assumption that it would happen
Hmm.
and will happen.
Yeah, and that's yeah, it's yeah. Thank you so much, though, for sharing this with us. We've had another discussion about this some time ago, where another friend also shared the fact that she started going through the menopause when she was 35 as well, and now she's 40. She's going to be 41 in a couple of months, and and she's saying that if she knew, she would have. But then you don't know, right? If God had revealed it to all of us, how our lives would have been, would we still have made the same choices? I don't know, because at the end of the day, we don't know the future. So we make the choices thinking that we're okay down the line. And she said if she knew, she would have frozen her eggs, in her 20s. And I think it's an option that now we should try and really consider, for especially our younger ones, and say that, listen, you might not have found someone now, but let's try and think of what, not, or what if
Yeah, definitely.
it doesn't happen. Miscarriages are, they are tricky. There are things that sometimes, most times, you find yourself really alone in, because yes, you can share, but not everybody can almost empathize with you, because I mean, who would have thought I would be going through this in my early 20s, um and then it's a lot. It's a lot. But yeah, Chrissy, thanks for sharing. It's just that I feel like it's a lot, because when I think back of how everything happened and where I am today, it's a lot. It's a lot. Because whilst I was going through it, it's just I remember crying. I said, God, why me? Why me? And then I remember Leslie said, well, if not you, who else? Because this is something you don't wish on anybody.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's yeah. Hi, Abigail. How are you?
Oh, good, thank you. How are you all? Evening, ladies.
We're doing all right.
Yeah, just to see, I think what you said was spot on. You don't really know what to say unless you kind of, I'm not saying you don't know what to say unless you've experienced it, but it's a tricky one that you don't really always know how to express unless you've really gone through it yourself.
Hmm.
Because I've always had friends who've had a miscarriage, and I had one 2 years ago. And I remember a few friends didn't know what to say to me at all.
Mhm.
And I didn't really know how I put that. You know, I thought you're one of my best friends, and
Mhm.
all you can say to me is God knows best.
Yeah.
I thought I don't really want to hear that right now.
Mhm.
You know, and I was in a position where I thought, now that I've experienced it myself, I feel like there's certain things that I may would have said in the past that I definitely wouldn't say now. Now that I know what it's like for myself.
Mhm.
So just like a bit of a question, really, because I know you said you've done a bit of research yourself, and your midwife told you to wait for 3 circles before you try again.
Mhm.
So when we miscarried, because we miscarried at 10 weeks,
Okay.
so this was before Araya,
Mhm.
and a little bit like you, I didn't listen at all. So we miscarried on the 21st of January
Mhm.
and conceived Araya on the 19th, so within 3 weeks.
Mhm.
So I didn't even have a cycle before.
Yeah.
So when I went for my 8-week appointment with that pregnancy, the midwife asked me, so when was the last period?
Mhm.
And I said, like last year, November, with
Mhm.
the other pregnancies. So I didn't even have a cycle. Because when I read around, they say that the best time to actually conceive is in the first 6 months. So that's
Yeah.
when your hormones are nice and high.
Mhm.
So do you know any sort of, is there any research on when it's the best time to conceive, or actually just trying straight away?
I can't give you specific numbers or nothing because I ain't a doctor, but what I know, from my own experience, I got pregnant the fastest after each time after a miscarriage, and they say that you should wait for 1 cycle and then get pregnant. But then, as yourself, where you got pregnant quite within a cycle, the cycle didn't even happen,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you got pregnant. That's when they say it's the quickest. When I spoke to my GP about it, he said it's up to you. If emotionally you're ready to start straight away, you should do it. Having said that, depending when your miscarriage happened, because if your miscarriage happened as like mine at 20 weeks, you have to wait for 3 months because you have to go through autopsy. You have to get the results of the tissue within your for the womb and everything, because then it might
Right.
tell you that it was an infection, maybe there was genetically something wrong. So for that, I would say definitely wait until you've got the autopsy. However, anything earlier than that, if you feel emotionally ready, go on and do it.
Mm. So
You
did
know,
they ever find out for you what happened, or they didn't?
the 20-week one, they said it was an infection, so it was probably UTI that I didn't realize, and then it just happened like that. And I remember I was actually writing my exam, because I think at that time me and you weren't that much in contact, because obviously I had gone to uni and stuff like that. So I had I was writing an exam, and the person going round know that knew that I was pregnant. So if I had to go and wee every like more often than others, they would just go with me. So then she went with me, waited outside, and then I wiped, and I thought this. Sorry, TMI. If it's too much for you, please, you know. And then I wiped, and I thought this just felt weird. And then when you're full term pregnancy and you're about to deliver, and there's a pinkish discharge, and they say that you're in labor, active labor. That's what it was, and it was horrendous. It's funny, the woman I met that was my midwife, she was Ghanaian, and she was the most gentlest soul, and I believe that God gave her to me because I met her again. I stayed in contact with her, and then I met her again at church. And I looked at her, she looked at me, and I just cried. And I was holding Geneva at the time, and I said, "This is the one after." That's all I told her. So, um, everything I believe now happens for a reason. If I hadn't gone, it made me a different person. Absolutely. And for the comments that you got that God knows best, it's the most annoying thing. However,
Oh,
the people do not know what to say.
mm,
Because if it's not that, what else do they say? I had a comment once especially after the 20-week one, from a family member to say that, what did you do wrong?
yeah. Mm,
And I said I didn't do anything.
My dad said that too.
Yeah. And then it's just like, what do you mean, what did I do wrong? And then that's when it all started, like, oh, what, maybe I did do something wrong. Maybe I ate something I shouldn't have eaten. And I loved cheese at the time, so I ate so much cheese. And I thought, oh my God, I ate too much cheese. You
But
know,
cheese is good. I didn't know. Yeah, cheese is fine.
listen. And then when you go online and you research on cheese, obviously someone else would have had a bad experience with cheese whilst they're pregnant. So,
Mm,
and it's just, Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah,
What
when
tips would you give us? What's the best thing that people should perhaps say?
what they should do, what one of my friends did, and she's on here. I think she was we're not from the same parents, but she's my sister in every way. She booked me a spa, a
Nice.
weekend with for Leslie and I. We went away, and for that I bless her because I said I was not gonna cry. I'm not crying, okay? It's just very windy in here. Um, she just booked it, and then we went away, and it was just. I cried though that weekend, but um, yeah, you know, it's it's a lot, and because when you don't know what you've done or you haven't done anything,
Mm,
it's yeah. I'm not
yeah.
crying, people.
Well, no, you're not. You're not crying. You're good.
You're crying.
That's what I did. I kept asking him, and I think at the stage I thought, I'm very early on. I never even had a scan. It was actually 2 weeks before my first 12-week scan. And I felt like I had hope because she said to me first, oh, maybe it's twins and you've lost one and the other one is still developing,
Hmm.
you know. And they were awful because it started on the Saturday. On Sunday, I wanted a scan. Apparently, no one works on a Sunday.
No,
This is
no, no one
ridiculous.
works on Sundays. Forget that.
So that alone, I was so angry because I'm like, I'm bleeding. I don't know what's happening. And you're telling me to wait. Fine. Waited till the Monday. Monday, I rang in to say, this is what's happened. I've been in A&E throughout the weekend. Can I please come and get a scan so I know what's happening? Oh, it needs to be triaged first. I need an appointment. And I remember I lost it over the phone. I was shouting at the receptionist, like, how dare you tell me to wait? And then she said, oh, as long as it's not too much and you're not going to pass out, as in too much blood,
Yeah.
you'll be fine. You're not going to die. And I just thought, oh, I just want to sue you, but I'm going to just calm down. So I didn't even get a scan until the Tuesday. So that was a good 3 days of just unknowing.
Hmm.
I'm still just passing. And it got really bad. I think I actually passed the placenta. And then obviously had my scan on the Tuesday. And again, I just had that hope, just thinking, I don't know, I was just crazy and thinking, oh, maybe it's just one and one's going to be fine, or, make all these excuses.
Hmm.
And then she confirmed it. And then that was it. It was just guilt. It was the fish that I ate. Was it the eggs that I ate? Was it not properly cooked? You start to blame yourself. And you do think of every single thing that you did that you could have done wrong. Then you start to think, is your husband going to blame you because you're the one that's carrying?
Hmm.
Did you do something wrong? So it's that minefield, isn't it?
Yeah. It
Going
just
round.
goes on and on and on. And then I remember when I had the 20-week miscarriage, we had a very good friend. I mean, I call him my brother. He just had a baby, and if I'm not mistaken, our due dates were similar times as well. And the
That's
funny
it.
thing is, all the miscarriages I've had, I've always known the due dates, and it's forever imprinted in my head. And
Mm,
so it's forever there. And then we had to go to the christening, which was in I had just had a miscarriage a week before, and we went, and then obviously Leslie was a DJ, so we couldn't say we can't come. So we
yeah. Yeah.
had the
Got
baby, and
that.
the baby was cute and that. And then I was happy dancing, doing the thing, doing what I'm supposed to. And we had to sleep over there, and I just cried. I didn't sleep all night. I cried and cried and cried and cried. I cried and cried and cried, and I've cried a lot. I have cried
Mm,
a lot, and I've just realized that all this crying is, I think God collected it and just put it into Geneva and put it into Vienna
the
because
child is a blessing, yes.
uh, they are miracles. So it's yeah, it's it's the questioning that you get from people that what happened. Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
If I knew, it
yeah,
wouldn't keep happening to me, would I? Like,
yeah.
yeah, I would stop it. Oh, but what? Were you exercising? No, not really.
Yeah, but exercising, no, exercise will not make that happen. So that's not an excuse. And I get what you're saying. People do find things to say
Hmm.
to almost justify, but
Hmm.
people exercise all the time that are pregnant, have very successful pregnancies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah. It's sometimes like oh, what? It's yeah. But I believe I had to go through it in order to know I love different. I relate to people differently. I talk differently. Because I think before it was just like everything was like, oh yeah, well, I'm young. This is not a problem. But
Yeah,
it's all like, I think the one thing that I'm super super gutted about still is that all my pregnancies were twin pregnancies, all of them.
that
So
is, yeah.
it's just like I was meant to have twins, but but
Don't
then
worry, your children will have twins because it's double the
oh,
time. And they're all, and you know that we give access to our grandparents.
they'll come through with someone else. I'm not doing that no more.
Yeah, but you will. You know, you send your kids to your mum, they'll be sending them to you.
Oh, yes, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, but if
We'll have your twins.
yeah, if everything was aligned and things were different, I probably would have one more because I think there's a thing as well in the TTC land, trying to conceive world, is where when you lose, you're in the mode of wanting always to replace. So the more you lose, the more you keep wanting to replace. And that's where I thought I found myself, where even after Vienna, I was trying to think, oh, let me have one more. But then it never actually ends because I've lost so many, I can't replace them all. I can't,
Yeah.
you know. So that's one thing that we women, we go through a lot. We go through a lot. But it's it is what it is. But we're here now, which is good. Oh, thank you so much, Abigail, for sharing. Your beautiful children.
Mhm. Annoying, but they are blessings.
Yes, praising God for that. Oh, there's some feedback coming from me. That's it. Okay, I've just muted you only because there's a feedback coming. So obviously, anyone else that has like anything else to share, to ask, go ahead and do so. Yeah, and unmute yourself and have a go at it. Anything. Don't be shy, girls. It's alright if where you're around is noisy or kids running around and things like that. We understand. Yeah. Anyone has a question for me? I'm happy to answer. As I said, I'm no doctor, but I can only tell you um, from what I've experienced in that. I think one thing that I might want to say more about is the stitch, probably because a lot of women probably would not have had heard of it because not all pregnancies need it and things like that. So mine were with so the stitch is supposed to help close the cervix, just close it until you're ready to deliver or until they can take it out and the baby will be viable. Babies are viable from about 24 weeks plus. Anything below that, there's a higher risk of the baby, coming out and having possible issues or disabilities or just being too small for the world and them not making it. However, I have met, whilst I was in hospital with Geneva, a baby that was born at 23 weeks and was completely fine, a little girl, and she was fine. So the stitch is there to help close the cervix and keep it intact and together. So just give me 1 second, guys. Hey, sorry, had to go back. Is a bit of commotion around here. So yeah, so the stitch will be the one to close up and help you. There are two forms of stitches. There's one that you have before you get pregnant, and then there's one you have when you're already pregnant at 12 weeks. So the one I had was at 12 weeks. However, I did consider to have the one done to put in before I get pregnant. I don't quite know how that one works. So mine was inserted when I was 12 weeks with Geneva, and I had an operation. I had an epidural, so I was numb from the legs down, and I was completely fully awake when they did it. And I remember the one I had with Geneva, because it hadn't been done so often at that hospital. Students then came around, and can you just imagine? I'm there in the stirrups with my legs wide apart, and people just looking my bits and see how that go. Obviously, they are just thinking about it in a medical way to see how that is getting fixed. And I've been blessed that all the people that have worked on me were consultants or people that were very highly skilled, because I think people were also afraid to do certain procedures on me in case it didn't work out. Didn't want that to be a thing almost, if that makes sense. So the stitch was inserted and then usually gets taken out after 30 weeks, when then your baby is that has the highest possibility of surviving when out. And yeah, with Geneva, obviously that didn't really work because she came at 27 weeks and the stitch was removed without any anesthesia, and it was painful. I had just gas and air, and I heard the scissors go in, snip, and it coming out. So it was painful, but it was what it was. I was in labor for 3 days with Geneva before she came out, and she was the tiniest thing. She was lighter than a bag of sugar. I could see through her skin almost and her veins because she was that small. But again, I had friends and family that were around me. My mom kept feeding me with kinky and shito, which was great. I was able to breastfeed, which was good. It helped her a lot. So yeah, that's my story with the stitch. Yeah. Anyone has any questions? Anything to add? Anything to want to say? Andrea, how's
Just
it?
a quick question.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, just a quick question, Esther. So why do they leave it until 30 weeks and not just until full term? Like, why is 30 weeks the cutoff?
I can't give you a reason why, but they just take it out then because there's no the baby can survive after 24 weeks. However, some hospitals don't take babies under 30 weeks. So let's say, for example, you are up and about and they take it out at 26 weeks and you're in an area that the hospital does not take babies under 30 weeks, you'll be stuck. So I think that's the thinking behind it, that they take it at 30 weeks, and most hospitals will take babies when the gestation is only 30 weeks. That's the only thing I can think of.
Oh, okay. I understand. Thanks.
No problem, because when I lived in Bromley, the hospital that was there, the closest to me, didn't take babies under 30 weeks. So with Vienna, I had to be very careful and mindful that I wouldn't go into preterm labor before 30 weeks, because then the closest hospital wouldn't take her. And the hospital that was the closest would have been King's. It's not too far. It's a good hospital. I don't mind it. But I'd obviously prefer a hospital that's closer to me. So those are the things that is you have to be mindful of. Anyone, any questions? Oh, Andrea, hiya.
Yeah, I'm here. Question, or let me tell you a bit about myself first. Okay, I've had an ectopic when I was in my 20s. Lost a tube through that. Then after I married, I had a miscarriage again. I think my question to you is, did you find the hospital staff sensitive to the situation? Because on numerous appointments to sort of emergency gynae units, some of them were not too sensitive. For example, I'd had the ectopic years ago, had a miscarriage. When I was pregnant with my son, I remember having a scan and the lady going quiet, and then she sort of in a blasé manner said, you're having a miscarriage. But I don't know, it's just the delivery of it, which I think she could have been more sensitive, because I'm sure she could have seen from my notes the history. But the bottom line was I wasn't in the end, but it was just the manner in which she delivered the news to me. I didn't know, it was insensitive the way she did it.
And I think I must say that for them, that's their job. They see it every day. So
every day, yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, you've come here, you think this is what it is. It probably is what you think it is. That's why you're here. But, be calm about it. And I think all the doctors I've met and nurses I've met in the past, they've been okay. It's only one occasion where I went and then he was like, okay, there's blood around here, so it looks like it's pushing the baby down. So sorry, it's a miscarriage. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. But then also I had one instance where with Geneva, actually, I bled a lot with Geneva, and I passed a massive, I passed something really big, and then I went to I took a picture of it because at that time I was almost desensitized to
Mm.
it. I knew what was going to happen. I knew what it looked like. So therefore, I was just like, okay, let me just go through the motions of it and make sure that I've got a recollection so that if anyone asks me a question for some strange reason, I have an answer or I can tell them this is what it is, whatever. So I took a picture of it and it was massive. It was about this big.
Oh, wow.
And then I went to the hospital and then the God bless her, my gynae at the time, she was a very good friend of mine. So she was painting her house, but she was a consultant at the for the gynecologist department.
Mm.
So she literally had the key to the place. So she booked me in and then said, you know what, I'm coming. I want to scan you. I don't want anyone else to scan you. Let's go. So she was still in her plain clothes and everything. We met her at the hospital. We went there. And then she said, well, this looks unfortunately like another miscarriage. However, go home, rest, come back again. It was I don't know if you remember the Queen's Jubilee a few years ago, where we had like an extra bank holiday that June.
Yes.
And so that I couldn't go in on the Monday, which annoyed me. So the Queen pissed me off that day. And then I had to go in on the Tuesday. And then I went in, and then before then, the Sunday, she called Leslie and said, Liz, I think this is a miscarriage. Just make her comfortable, let it pass, and, let her chill out. And she didn't know how to tell me because I'd gone through so many that
Yes.
I thought, I can't tell her this again and again and again. So I told Leslie, and Leslie went, okay, cool, and all of that. But inside of me, I knew there was something. This wasn't the end. And I remember, I said before, there's a pop I always feel before I have a miscarriage. It's an internal pop, but I can hear it inside of me before it happens. And that time I didn't hear it. So I said to Leslie, I think this is it. I think there's something still happening inside of me, but let's just wait until Tuesday. So we went on Tuesday, had the scan, and Geneva was still there, She was still there. There was a strong heartbeat, and she was there. And the blood had completely passed. So what they did confirm was that it was a twin pregnancy, and I had just passed the twin, and she was still there.
Right.
So it was, yeah. And the hospital staff, I must say, most of them are okay, but it's just sometimes some midwives can be very like, because this is what they do day in, day out. So sometimes they are also desensitized to it.
Yes, maybe.
This is, but I must say I've had good experiences. So when I do get questions asked a lot, but King's has been amazing, absolutely amazing with me.
All right.
Yeah. But do you know one thing I also annoyed me a lot is my notes are there. You can read them before I turn up, right? Read them. Stop asking me questions. When I go, they so what are you here for? You know why I'm here. Okay.
Yeah.
If you read my notes, you would know my history. I don't want to keep reminding myself of what has happened.
That's true. Yeah.
That really annoyed me. So sometimes I'll go there and like, do you know what? Take 5 minutes. I'll mind a consultation and read my file, and then you can ask me questions. I didn't want to have to go over it and over it again.
That's true. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. But aside that, it's definitely not easy, but you just sometimes you forget about it and then you move on with your life, and then something happens and it reminds you again. And I've got some friends' children actually that are born on the due date, some of my due dates, which is very hilarious, So I never forget one of these children's birthdays because I know the due date was, then.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's good though. It's a blessing, I think. When it happens, it doesn't seem like a blessing. And I can say that now because maybe I've had my 2 children. So I think for someone that hasn't had kids or still going through it, it might not be the same. Do you see what I mean? And I think I can share it now because my story has turned out different. Having said that, I've met a lot of women who haven't had children. I've gone through that and they're still very happy, in their career, in the home, and then they try and make it up by, if you have nieces and nephews, to be around them, because sometimes it's not your own children that you have in your womb are your children, So if I didn't have my children, we were considering adopting. That's something I still really would want to do. But yeah, because I think there's so many kids out there that need a home, a good, stable home with one parent, because you can adopt with just being a single parent, you can adopt being a couple and all of that. And I think we should try and consider that as well, because some children are in our hearts before we give birth to them. So I don't think there's anything wrong with adopting, loving that child as your own.
Esther, would you have considered a surrogate?
If I could afford it, probably as well. Yes, I would have. And I also would have
Okay.
considered IVF. IVF is one of the things I was considering because I know that in parts of Africa and especially Ghana, it's been very successful. It's slightly cheaper than what it is here. It's still in the thousands, £7,000 or £8,000, but it's slightly cheaper here, and the facilities are very good. So I would have considered definitely IVF and surrogate if I could afford it. And then also, obviously, what guarantees you that that surrogate would not have a miscarriage? Nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And also, you're not problem, but you wasn't not conceiving. You were conceiving.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay.
So yeah.
Do you find yourself celebrating the birthdays of the due dates or the day that you miscarried?
No.
And what would your advice be to others?
My advice be to others: if you remember it, that's fine. If you're religious, say a little prayer. If you're not, just because you know the 20-week one, I had to organize a burial and everything because that's what you just do in this country. And we never gave her a name because we knew it was a girl. We had a picture of her because they dressed her up for me and everything, and I took a picture. And I didn't on that day. I didn't look at it because I couldn't. I was just really scared. I didn't know what she would look like. So I know where she's buried and that. This is so odd. I have not spoken about this before. But I've never gone there. So we just never really dwelled on that. And the picture only got rid of it after I had Geneva. Yeah, so yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. You don't have to.
That's all right.
Yeah.
As well, because I think it's a lot, and within our generation, within our culture, and our beliefs, and that sometimes, if you're not careful, you're just gonna think you're bad at it. You're a bad woman. You're not a woman at all for not being able to do what they think is natural. So it's yeah, because most of it that I'm saying here, most people don't know. Some might, but some of the things I haven't even said it out loud because it's been so many years. There's one person on here that's been with me throughout everything, so she knows everything. But aside that, I think I've had a good run with it. But I tell people you can conceive with one tube, you can conceive with no tubes. Because I met one lady that has had her son after she had to remove both of her tubes because she had ectopics in both, and she still conceived naturally, just fine with no tubes, and has a beautiful son.
Amazing.
Yeah, and before that, she has a daughter, so the age gap was only about 2 years or so. It's possible, It's definitely possible. So I've met a lot of women over the years where I meet them and I can sense the reasons why I've met them. And I've always wondered, God, what is this? But I know I went through it in order to be able to sense that kind of thing, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So anyone has any questions or anything they want to share? We know that this is an open space and all of that. However, if after this recording or whatnot, actually you're not comfortable with it being on YouTube or anything like that, let me know and I'll pull it down. And we can, because it's a lot to that's why I say if you don't want to put on your camera, that's fine, and then just talk about experiences like that. Anyone has anything else to say?
Hi, Vesta.
Hi, Ruby.
Hello. I think my question is more, sorry, I've got TV in the background.
It's all right.
I think my question is more along looking at it in terms of your faith.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you feel like you were able to kind of, your faith got you through that, or was it a combination of both your faith and your, your husband and your mum, the family around you? Because I think with some people, they probably feel like, oh, I'm Christian, I can't like grieve like this, or I can't feel like this. and they put a bit too much emphasis on the faith rather than saying, God, this is how I feel, help me. Because I know we're not all Christians, but I know you are. So how did you feel like that had an impact as well?
Yeah, I think as I mentioned before, what happened was I stopped praying completely. After the 20-week miscarriage, I stopped because I didn't understand the reason why God would let this happen to me. I'm not a person that
Yeah.
was like up and about doing their thing, whatever, that sort of thing.
Mm.
I knew people that did it, but still felt pregnant the minute that their husband breathed on them. Okay. So I stopped. Not because I almost lost faith, if that makes any sense. And that's
Exactly. Yeah.
it was
It
just
can. Yeah.
God. And then I said, okay. And then I went to church, one of my friend's church in East London. And then there was a convention on, and the pastor prayed. And then when I got home, I was still dwelling on what he said and what we prayed about and that. And then I sat down quietly by myself, one day, and I heard it clearly. Something said to me, be still and let God. And that's when I realized that I have to really, because sometimes they say that, oh, when you least expect it, that's when you fall pregnant again. Don't try, don't obviously try, just relax. To me, that was the worst thing for me to do, to relax. Why? I have a mission. My mission is to be pregnant and stay pregnant. So therefore, I have ovulation kits and all of that. So when I heard that and I realized that, that's when I think the first time I felt that when I was still, I heard God speak. And I thought that he said to me, be still and let him do what he's doing, because he knows what he's doing, and what he's doing to me will make sense eventually. Right now it makes no sense. And that's what helped me a lot. And then there was a book, I think it's around somewhere, it's called Supernatural Birth. It's written by a woman that for many, many years, she and her husband, she's a Christian woman and the husband was a pastor, I believe, in church. She didn't have children, but she knew that she was meant to have children because God told her. And there were other people that came together to also give their testimonies of how they conceived. And there are little verses in the Bible that tells you the stories of other women that struggled. We know the stories of Sarah and Hannah and all of that. And there is that book. I'll see if I can find it. Oh, there we go. I found it. This is the book. So this is the book I purchased. And as you can tell, it's been many years because it looks like this now. And I purchased this book. And this is the book. You can get it on Amazon. It's still available. That's the book I read from front to back every day. And it increased my faith. It changed the way I prayed. It changed the way I looked at things, and it helped me. That's the book I would recommend now to anyone that wants to, try and, this is it, try and, get it. And then I remember when I was going through that, I said to Leslie that, you know what, let's sit down and talk about this practically, because really and truly, maybe we're not supposed to have children. Because maybe we're not compatible, so therefore you go your way, I go my way. Because I don't want a time to come 10, 20 years down the line where you tell me that actually I don't want to be with you, or I've got someone else pregnant or something like that. Having said that, my husband is not like that, a natural person. He's not like that. He's very committed and focused. So to him, he pulled me aside and said, listen, this is not the reason why me and you married. We didn't marry because we knew for a fact we were going to have children. So that's not the reason. So if there's other ways of having children, we will explore it, but let's not dwell on it, because maybe it's not in our path to have children. And I said, okay, fine, media, I know I want to have children. So faith helped. And I think the day my husband was made, God was thinking of me, because other men possibly who are not with faith would have possibly left me or mistreated me or something. And he has his own faith, which really helps. So I think it's a combination of both, really. I hope that.
I think that's really good to know, and it's really good that you have that support system, because you can imagine for some women, they're going through it, and there are some partners that don't really understand it. I've never been through it myself, but I can just imagine that some women are going through it and the man doesn't really get it. It's like, oh, I know we were expecting a child. They're disappointed in that sense, but they're not thinking about what the woman's gone through in terms of her body and, expecting a child and waiting. but instead they're just thinking, oh, I've lost a child. And I think a lot of couples don't really know how to grieve together and deal with it. So it's really good that you were able to do that. Like I said, I've never been through it, so it's you can just imagine it. Like even as someone who's had kids, I sort of think, God, I don't know how I'd be able to handle that. So, you know, hats off to you, and I'm really glad that you had that support system, because it really does make a difference.
And it was just him for a long while, because even my mum, bits of the story I'm telling you now, she doesn't know. It's only because I felt as though it's I don't know how to even explain it. So some of the bits she doesn't, not fully aware of it. And that's what, now that it's out and about, there's, if she finds it and she bumps into it, she will ask me. I'll have to explain it to her. But my mum, obviously, in as it was going on and carrying on, I told her, we prayed about it, and she always encouraged me that I shouldn't lose faith, because at the end of the day, um she has me, and I'm here, and she believes I'm supposed to also have children, and for her to have.
Is your mom gonna watch this recording? Because she's gonna know now.
Well, lockdown, hey?
Yeah. My mom started watching her WhatsApp stories, and she's now watching mine. I'm like, oh gosh.
No. I cannot. Actually, I think I've blocked her on my WhatsApp stories. No.
Oh no.
She found on Instagram as well. She found Sister to Sister on Instagram.
Oh right. Oh.
God, I love it. And then she was liking it. And kind of blocked her. But anyway.
Yeah, back to this. But it's a really interesting topic, and it's really, really interesting to hear your story. And now you have 2 beautiful kids, so it's just like, I'm really glad you could really get through that time, because a lot of people find it really, really hard. And yeah, I'm really happy that you have you can now tell your story.
Yeah. And one of my doctors said that I need to write a book, and now saying things out loud that I am saying, I would love to be able to do that, and just to share my experiences and things, and tell people how I went through it and how it was. Not everyone's story is like mine, though, so we need to be mindful of that. That some people are still going through it, but yeah. So it's we thank God, but Corona needs to go away so that we can actually all meet face to face. I think that'd be quite nice to be able to have like a get together and just share things and just have a good time together. Anyone has any questions? Hi, Angie. Hi, y'all. Hi, Antoinette. I see you all. Hi, Melissa.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hope you guys are all doing good. Yeah, so if you have anything to share or ask, fire away. And you lot made me kind of cry, which is not nice. But I forgive you. And yes. Anything? If not, I think it's I don't have no moral of the story. I'm not a good person to conclude things like this. And I think my conclusion is always know yourself, know what you want, check your surroundings. And if you're a woman of faith, pray, get the scriptures, because everything you need is in the Bible. Everything is in it. There's nothing that is not in it that you would search and you wouldn't know it. So that's it. And I think one thing that's very important is that let's be mindful of other people's feelings. Let's be mindful of not trying to be those aunties that when someone has just got married, but hey, when are the babies coming? Oh gosh, are you pregnant already? No, let's try and stop doing that. You might be thinking it, but just don't say it out loud. So, and there are couples that have gone through a lot more than what I have gone through, but they're still very strong together as a couple. And also, there's some couples actually that don't want to have children. That after they've had a few miscarriages, they just decide not to have children again because they wouldn't want to have to go through that. Because emotionally, it's quite a lot. It is draining. It is tasking. it's a lot. And as I said, I've lost friendships because of this, because after a while I shut everyone out. Didn't want to socialize much. I would go out, but you would never catch me make a new friend, because it's just too much stress to add that to what I was going through. So yeah, so we're gonna come to an end now, unless someone has anything to contribute. You can put something in the chat if you rather prefer, if maybe you can't speak because where you are is not conducive to be unmuted. But other than that, thank you all, guys. Thank you all so much for every week sticking with me, being here with me. And the next week's topic, which will be next week Thursday, another live on YouTube sort of thing, will be about marriage. It's a broad topic, but I wanted to try and pick out a few things, because over the period of lockdown especially, there have been some revelations, there have been some new developments, there have been things that people have found themselves, you know, maybe in a good or bad way. So next week, if you're all, obviously, by God's grace, you will all be here next week. Then let's all meet here it will be the same time, 8:30 p.m. on a Thursday, the same Zoom ID, every Thursday. So if you can share it. And then also, if you haven't already signed up to or subscribed to my YouTube, do that. And this YouTube is not to make money or anything. It's just to keep in touch with you guys, keep you informed when any topic comes up and anything exciting that might happen on Sister Sister. Obviously, also, we are from next week going to be on Clubhouse. Anyone that has an iPhone that has joined Clubhouse, look for me and simply Vesta or Vesta Okine or KYNE, and find me on there. But if there's no more contributions from anyone, everyone have a lovely, lovely evening. And thank you so much for being here. And this has been another success. And thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, Vesta. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Vesta.
Bye-bye. Bye, Andrea. Bye, Angel. Bye, everyone. Bye.